and welcome. And it's another Monday morning, another week, another day, another dawn. Good morning, Jude. How are you?
Good morning, Clive. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Very, very good. Thank you. It was an awesome interview we did last week with young Tiffany.
Amazing. What an inspiration she is as a salon owner, as a working mum. She's just an all-round bubble of inspiration.
Yeah, we got some amazing feedback on the session last week, which was great. And things, as with every week when we do this, things have changed. When we actually recorded this, as I was driving here this morning, it did mention that you've just had some lockdown release things happen in Melbourne. So things are starting to move a little bit. The numbers are on the way down, which is a great sign.
Yeah, it is. So, based on where it is today, which who knows what it's going to be by the time this goes to air, but because we've learnt that lesson the hard way, thankfully numbers are coming down and we are having some easing of restrictions, particularly in regional Victoria, which is really, really good news. It just shows that there is a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel and hopefully we're not too far off, somewhat normal life again.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely going in the right direction, which is definitely what we want to see. So, but going on from last week, Tiffany mentioned, and I think this is one of the things that I took out of her interview, and that is that, she did mention that she, with obviously being a busy mum and running 2 salons, she worked with a coach, and that was definitely paramount in getting her through the COVID shutdown and all that kind of situation, which got me thinking that Kelly and I also have a coach and who's been very instrumental in our business. We ran a not-for-profit salon industry for quite some time until that day came when we're like, okay, why are we doing this? Where are we going to take this business? And we engage the services of Larissa. So she's kindly accepted to come on our show today. We're very excited to have her on. So please welcome, drum roll please, McGregor. It's our first guest from outside the Muk family. Good morning, Larissa, and welcome to our show this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honour.
It's certainly great to have you. As I mentioned before, you've certainly changed mine and Kelly's outlook on our business, and which will come to as we go through the session. We've been working together for quite some time, and it's definitely paid dividends for us. And so I really wanted to share that within the Muk family, especially with what's going on in Victoria and certain parts, even the UK right now. I think some of the information that you've helped us with will be just so valuable to our viewers and listeners. So what we usually do is get to start off with a little backstory about, who you are and, what you do and your hairdressing. How did you get involved in coaching and hairdressing? So over to you.
All right. Well, I'll try and keep a long story short. I'm a qualified hairdresser. And 6 months out of my apprenticeship, I couldn't really find the right salon to go to next. I'd outgrown the space, and my little naive self at 20 thought, I'll just open my own. And within 6 weeks of that idea, I was open. And it was a crazy ride. It was probably good that I just sort of took such massive action without really knowing what I was getting myself into, because if I knew, I actually probably wouldn't have done it. So I started with me and one other in a suburban salon in Wellington here in New Zealand. And I owned that salon for 20 years. And we grew from 2, and we had a couple of location changes. I had 2 salons for a short time, and I hit 40, the business hit 20. And maybe it was a mini life crisis, maybe. But I decided maybe the next 20 years was going to be different to the previous 20 years. I had a team of 30. We were a big operation. And I think I'd done all the things. I was starting to look for opportunities. Being a sort of creative entrepreneur, I started fixing things that probably didn't need to be fixed. It was a good time to either duplicate or exit stage left. So I was quite involved in tech development at that time for the industry, and that took me down another whole road of working for software companies. I've worked for 3 industry salon software companies over the last few years, and during that time actually it was when I really realized that there were so many salon owners that just needed help. and had been in the same painful places that I had been. Like, owning a business is hard. It's hard on the heart, it's hard on the soul, it's hard on the feet. And I saw so many people in pain. I was like, okay, I think I know how to help these people. And that's when the coaching kind of started. And I launched Salon Owners Collective 4.5 years ago.
That's
and
awesome.
So it's been a good journey.
No, it's fantastic. It's a great story. I just picked up on that 20 years. Isn't it funny how fast time flies, right, when you're doing something? I just happened to hear earlier on today, it's 20 years ago today that the opening of the Sydney Olympics happened tonight. And I was like, oh my God, I was 30 when that opened, and in another 20 years I'm going to be 70. Oh my God. It just goes too fast. But yeah, no, it's a great story. I can't wait to get into this conversation. Jude, you excited?
I'm so excited. I just can't wait to unpack some of that. So, Larissa, on your mission statement with your Salon Owners Collective website is all about, helping salon owners with the stress and the long hours and the overwhelmingness of being a salon owner, as you mentioned, and we've all been there and understand that, to a life of freedom and profit. That sounds like the absolute ultimate as far as being a salon owner goes. So how do most salon owners struggle to get that right in your experience?
Yeah, look, I struggle to get that right. I think, as a society from previous generations, we've really been taught success equals working hard, hard hours, hard yakka, and I think to the point where we actually make things more complicated for ourselves, because we have this sort of embed belief that hard, complicated is the way to do it. And it's how our parents grew up, and it's how their parents grew up. And society sort of tells us otherwise, that if we're cruising along and having a nice time, too much of a nice time, we're doing it wrong. Or we shouldn't be wealthy and have time. We need to either have lots of time and no money, or lots of money and no time. And I kind of think right from early on in business, I thought, that's crazy. Surely we can have both. Surely I don't have to be a crazy maniac, stressed out person to live the lifestyle that I want and have the money lifestyle that I want. And so that was always sort of the dream, is to be able to have a little bit of both. And it was always the driving force. And so when I sold my salon, I worked in and on that business 15 hours of the week. I'd started another business, mind you, just to kind of keep up with the creating complication in my life. But I thought, well, if I can do it, other people can do it. And when I was working with software and I was working with the industry, I just saw so many people working 40 hours on the floor, and then they would come home and stay up late at night to do the wages or the social posts or the complications with team members that was happening at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And these are people that have children. I'm like, this is not how the industry should be. We shouldn't be that miserable and stressed out. I certainly had my fair share of years feeling exactly like that. And it's almost like it's a trend that I even still have to help or force myself to not go back into that space. It's like a workaholic syndrome almost, and I have to be quite mindful and intentional to hold on to freedom and profit and keep the two together. So I think it's 100% doable. And for 80% of my life, I feel like I live there. I have to manage the other 20%. So I think it's achievable, but it just means flipping a few beliefs, actually, I think, and letting go of a few, some guilt. I think that our parents, our friends, society, even our team throw at us unbeknownst to them that, what do you mean you can go and sit on the beach for half an afternoon and enjoy yourself? Surely not.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's something that timely is we need to be reminded of, because we do slip back into it. There was a book that I read after having had a period of time of working incredibly hard and doing the crazy hours that you were referring to. And it was called The Way We're Working Isn't Working by Tony Schwartz, who also runs the Energy Project. And it just resonated so much with me because I was totally in that, you've got to work really hard. And and that had a huge impact on, and as you say, like, you know, I'm probably at a time where I need to be, you know, have a little reminder and a little reset, because we need a bit of a reset every now and then. But it's fantastic. I think that the message of, you know, freedom and profit as a business owner is just such a great message to be giving people. It's like you're giving them permission that that's okay.
Yeah. And I think, you know, freedom means different things to everybody, and it doesn't always mean sitting on the beach with a cocktail, because I do also believe in smart work. I refrain from hard work, like smart work. Like, you've got to muck in sometimes, and you've got to, excuse the pun, you've got to muck in sometimes and do the work, like, you know, do the stuff that needs to be done. But we need to do it with a little bit more intention and a little bit more foresight, and question ourselves, why are we doing it like this? And is there a better way that we can do this more strategically or more cleverly, that actually saves everybody, including our team? Like, our team don't actually have to work like crazy horses either to work smarter. And so I think it's a good mantra. It's become my sort of lifelong mantra to have freedom and profit, whether that's freedom of time, freedom of mindset, freedom of overwhelm and stress. It can mean lots of things for lots of different people. So
it's so interesting. You've just taken me back to when Kelly and I first opened the doors. It was just the two of us. And I think this is one of the things that happens to most people that own a business when they open a salon. We worked around the clock. We did all the hours that, you know, we shouldn't have been doing. You know, we were taking clients 5, 6, 7 days a week. And we got in this pattern of just working hard and just, you know, we've got to do the numbers. And that's how that 20-year thing just goes past. Like, you know, we've been in business 10 years now, and we've broken that cycle. But that wasn't something we learned. I mean, sorry, it wasn't something that came natural to us. We had to be taught how to do that. What's the biggest mistake you see people make when they go into business? Like, I just heard of a situation only this morning of a salon that's just lost 4 of its top stylists. They've obviously, due to COVID, rents are cheap. They're going down the road. And I just thought, oh, poor things. What's the biggest mistake people make, you know?
Well, it's a good question, Clive, because I think actually the first biggest mistake is that we arrive in our business and we fill ourselves with clients, and we make the business revolve around us, because we become the commodity that we're selling, because our skill is good and our people skills are good. It's kind of like the mindset that got us to own the business in the first place is what makes us popular in terms of being a stylist. And we somehow forget as we open the business that we've now just bought ourselves a second job. We have the stylist job, and we've got now the business owner job, and we keep doing the stylist job for 40 hours of the week, and we forget we're running a business for a little while. And it sounds kind of silly and like, what do you mean we forget? But actually, the business itself is an entity in itself. It's like a whole clientele of its own. It needs to be looked after. It's a beast that needs to be fed. And if we build the business model all around ourselves, then what happens when people walk away from the business is that we're back left holding all of the pieces and propping the whole thing up. So we want to be mindful that when we're building a business, we're building a brand that is separate to ourselves. It can feel like our baby and we can own it, but it's its own entity. It can't be us. It can't be revolved around us, and we can't treat it like it's an extension, like it's our arm, like it's an extension of us, which we do because we're so close to it and we can make it our own. But we really need to build a brand that is separate to us and that we can love and nurture, but so it's stronger than us, and it's stronger than the team that we employ as well, because it needs to be able to survive people coming and going. Because the one thing is true is that you'll be the last man standing. You know, like when everybody leaves, people will come into your life and they will go out of your life, and there'll be a very small percentage that will stay for the long haul. So it needs to be able to survive that. Did that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And so speaking of that, and about how you have, I think as hairdressers, we do actually learn to work really hard, and that becomes such a habit for us. So I think hairdressers are some of the hardest working people that you'll ever meet. And I think that, you know, just in your own on your website, seeing that you had your first baby in 2006, and then, just coming back to work half day of the week, and then, a second baby, and then not sort of being full-time on the floor again. But your business has gone on to be, more successful than ever. So, that for a lot of us, that's very contradictory to the way we work. So tell us about how you managed that. Like, how did you do that? And because that's such a great lesson, again, for those of us, working mums, how we manage the baby that is, the real babies, our real babies, as well as our other baby, which is our business baby. How do you manage that and make your business baby as successful, even more successful in that?
Well, I think it was a step-by-step process. And I can truly say that every time I took a day off the floor, I would remove myself half a day at a time, in terms of going from 5 days down to 0. And every time I took a chunk of time off serving clients individually, I would reinvest that time in actually serving my team. So I replaced my clients, and my clients now became my team. My team were my clients, and that was my job, was to grow and serve them. And so I wasn't full-time off the business, but I was full-time off the floor. Except for once I had babies, then I was much more non-present, but I'll talk about that in a second. So it was a replacing of my time in a one-on-one environment to a 1-on-5 or a 1-on-10 or a 1-on-15, and we got quite big. So I would redistribute that time into what I call IGA, income generating activity, and that was my sole purpose. And so your team are the income generators now, rather than you. Because in 1 hour, if I can do a client in 1 hour, I can earn $100, maybe $200, or even $300 if I'm charging really high prices, but I'm capped. But if I can spend that same 1 hour with 5 of my team, or even 10 of my team, if I do it in the right way, then each of them can earn $100, $200, or $300 per hour. I've now leveraged that. So I've turned that 1 hour now into 5 hours, or to 10 hours, or into 15 hours, depending on the size of your team. And I think when you look at it that way, it's like, oh, I can't afford to be on the floor cutting clients. I'm cutting myself short here. I'm putting a ceiling, like a really low ceiling, on my capabilities. So I think it's just a different way of looking at business, getting out of the weeds and getting away. And I think what really helped in preparation for starting a family, and once I did, is I was physically not present as much as I used to be. And so I could be a lot more objective, not being in the weeds and in the drama and the detail. I could just make much more data-driven decisions, and much more sort of decisions from a step back, and give good guidance to my management team, who would then go and do the implementation. And that distance between me and the front line, with the management team being really objective, that worked. Because I could say, I just need you to do it like this. And they weren't as emotionally attached to it, and they would just go and do because it was their role to do so. And so that's how we grew exponentially. The more that I stepped back, actually the bigger we got.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even with our own example with Kelly, I mean, she's 3,000 miles away in a different city, and she's so connected with, obviously, especially in 2020, we haven't seen her physically since March, and she's very much in the day-to-day running of the business, and with Natalie, our manager, and we've really changed the way that we have done business during this 2020. And I mentioned this, I think, in our meeting last week. If there's ever a time to change something, it's this year. Have you noticed a trend with salon owners? Sort of, certainly with shutdowns and all that, and lockdowns and all those things, have you noticed a trend in business owners just going, right, we're going to have a complete clean sweep?
100%. I think the first awesome thing has been the grace of time. People have had this time to be locked in their homes and be distant and have some thinking space, Like I know here in Wellington, we were in lockdown for 7 weeks. level 4 lockdown. That means you hardly drive your car, you just go to the supermarket. And so people are walking on the streets. It was so lovely. But do you know how much thinking you can do when you walk daily for hours on end? You can really think about things. And I think people had the opportunity to come down off the adrenaline rush of running a business, which is just like being in a mouse wheel, and you're up all the time, and you get to sort of come down and be calm. I actually think we should have lockdown once a year. I think that would be really good for everybody. All do it at the same time. Yeah.
A global lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so first of all was the thinking, and the second of all was the social distancing. When people came back or when they were open, you still have to be socially distanced so we could have less people in the salon at a time. And what I discovered is that when people had more time, because you couldn't have clients in between, the business model was forced to change. But what happened is people had more time to give to their clients, and as a result, their average spend went up because they had time to spend with them and nurture them and talk to them about what they wanted, what they needed, and what really they should have, rather than what they were just booked in for. People were less, stylists were less pressured or by the clock, because I've got somebody coming in 5 minutes, I've got to do this consultation fast, and spending went up. And what I've noticed actually over the last 4.5 years, we track key performance indicators, numbers, very, very carefully when we're working with salons. And I did some research, and what I discovered is that the salons that had a higher or increasingly high growing average client spend also had higher client retention. And I thought that's really interesting. So when you actually spend the time with the person to talk with them about what they really want, what they really need, where are they going in the future, and actually peppering in future appointments, which is future proofing, clients actually feel connected. They actually feel like they've been listened to, and they actually spend more because they can see what's possible for them to have. So I thought that was a really interesting observation, and quite a few of the salons that we work with directly have chosen to keep that model and not do the sort of back-to-back booking and have a little bit more one-on-one time with each individual client. So it certainly has changed the way that people do business.
This has come up quite a lot in the previous interviews we've done. It's almost like a return to the service. The consultation has come up over and over again, and the professionalism's gone up. And when you increase professionalism, when you increase the time you spend with people, you increase the money. I think that's definitely one of the positives we can take away from this whole thing. Yeah,
100%.
So one of the greatest challenges for the industry that we all face, and Clive just mentioned about a scenario where a salon's lost a whole lot of their team. Finding staff is a huge challenge for the industry as a whole. So how do you what's your recommendation about going about building the rockstar team, and obviously, as you said, you're always going to be the last person standing as the owner of the business, but what's your advice for finding the right team?
You want to be the last man standing, not the last man standing necessarily holding the scissors, right?
Yeah.
I think it is one of those strategic pieces inside of your business that you need to create a system and a process that works, and so you've got it on the ready to go at any time, because you're likely to need to do it 2 or 3 times a year or more, depending on the size of your business. And I think the first mistake that I see often is, there's 2 things. One is one that stems from the other. So the first one actually is visibility. You can't sell a secret. And so I think often we make the mistake of posting socially, for example, once, hey, we're looking for someone, and then we're locked in by fear to ever tell people again that we're looking for someone, in case people judge us and go, what, you haven't found anybody yet? Are you not good enough? It's actually the talk that goes on in our heads, right? I can't post it again. They'll think that I haven't filled the position and that I'm desperate for staff. There's only a reflection from how we're feeling ourselves. Actually, I think you can flip it. We're growing. We need more people, and celebrate the fact that you're bringing new people into your business. And I say that because posting a job advertisement once is not enough. First of all, hardly anybody sees any given one post on a given day. It might have a lot of reach, but people actually don't tune into that. You need to be visible for a long period of time, and we want people talking about it and sharing it, and because you're likely, the chances are one of your clients could know somebody who's a hairdresser whose mother's daughter's brother is looking for a job. They need to know. You can't sell a secret. So I think visibility is the first thing. Share it all the time, like on a weekly basis. Make sure it's on your website. Make sure it's easy for people to apply with you. It's super simple to confidentially get a hold of you and find out more about the role. I think the other thing too is that often I see salons still quite fearful of showing themselves. Like, you post lots of before and after pictures or backs of heads, and we don't actually see inside of the business to see, well, who is this team? Who are these people? Who is the owner? What is she about? And for a prospective stylist who wants to come to, wants to look for somewhere new, they want to know what's inside those closed doors to even see if you're their tribe. They want to see that picture and say, oh yeah, they look like they have fun, or they look a bit like me. I could see myself there. I can see myself fitting in there, because people won't come and look behind the curtain if they don't know what's going to be behind there, because they think once they're in, they'll have to make excuses to get out, and so they won't even apply. So I think you've got to be visible. It's a good social media strategy anyway, because clients think the same. Clients want to see, who are these people? Who am I going to be stuck with in the chair for 2 hours? I'm going to be stuck talking to, oh God, am I going to have to talk to someone who's going to talk about a cat all day? I'm not into cats, whatever it is. Stylists think exactly the same. So you want to be visible, and ultimately people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So let them know you, get them to understand who you are and a little bit about you personally, and then ask them if they want to come and have a job. So I think the last thing is language, actually. I think, especially if we've been disappointed with team members in the past, we can come across quite abrupt in our language. You must be qualified, you must be prepared, and there's all these demands. It's like, imagine going to the pub and you're meeting a guy on a Friday night, or a girl, or whoever, and you say, hey, I'd really love to buy you a drink, but you must want to have 4.5 children, and you must want to live in Melbourne, and you must, and you've got all these rules. It's like, hey, I just wanted to have a drink. So I think we've got to flip the language and say, but if you're looking to grow your business, like, be really proactive. If you're looking for your next opportunity and you want to grow your business, grow yourself, then come and talk to us. Make it appealing, because at that very moment when she's scrolling looking for a job, she's thinking about herself. She's not thinking about you. And so you want to make your whole ad around what she wants, the career that she wants, the future that she wants, the work environment that she wants. You can tell her your rules later, after the interview. But the first goal is just get the girl to call you.
Yeah, great. I love that advice. And someone who we'll be talking to in an upcoming episode actually does that unbelievably well, and it really does have an impact on team members joining them. And they this is a friend of mine, Adrian from Delilah in Melbourne. This is a conversation that we'll be having with him as well, because he does have this really great social media. You feel like you're part of the salon. You want to join the team, and he's just had new team members join him, and for exactly that reason, they want to be part of what's going on. I want to be part of that.
You want to be part of something that's going somewhere. You want to be able to see your future in that business. And usually when people apply for a job with you, they've been stalking you for a while. They don't usually make a snap decision. They've never seen you before and suddenly I want to apply for a job with you. It just doesn't work that way. Usually, that's the world we're in now. We socially stalk for a while, we follow for a while, we get the vibe, and then if it feels like us, then we reach out.
My head's still in the pub thinking about the. Actually, when you were saying that, I just have two very close friends of mine that I know have just been exactly through that scenario.
At the pub.
Oh yeah, it's one of them was told recently that by the way, I'm going to have children, and if you're not part of that plan, you need to leave. And I actually responded to my mate and said, I think that's really commendable. I think she knows what she wants, and you need to either listen to that. That's a good sign, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just went off on a tangent there. That seems to be my friends. Yeah, that's awesome. talking of rules and regulations and stuff, we are trained as hairdressers in, you know, all these different aspects. We're trained to cut, we're trained to consult, we're trained to colour. But we're very well, in my generation, I know it's different now, but in my generation, the business side was just something the boss did, and we just were creative. And one of the biggest learning curves Kelly and I have had is when we engage in your services, is being very transparent with our team on the numbers. And it's really important for all of our stylists and our manager and, you know, the people that work within the business to be mindful of the numbers. How much important, I mean, I know how much it is for me, but let's just share with our viewers, how important is that information to be shared?
Well, I think it's a little bit like, you know, if you're a professional team trying to achieve success, whatever that looks like, it would be like the All Blacks playing a game, you know, against Australia, and there was no scorecard. There was no, you know, no one was counting the goals, and nobody knew who won at the end. Like, we just wouldn't, it wouldn't be exciting to watch. It would completely change the whole game. And so I think your team need to know the score and know what a good job looks like, and then know how well they're doing against that. I think one of the things that I learned is that, you know, winning team members, successful team members, the type of team that we want to attract, they actually want to work in a winning business, a business that is winning. No one wants to be on the losing team, you know. We want to be in the winning team. And so how do we track whether or not we're winning? Well, it's the numbers. It tells us that we've either done the goal or we haven't done the goal. And I think particularly in the hair industry, less so in the beauty industry, funnily enough, but particularly in the hair industry, we forget that we're salespeople. And I think that's because we see ourselves first and foremost often as creatives, and we're creating this piece of artwork, which is great. But unless you learn the sales skills, you're going to run out of people to create your artwork on. And so we need to have that mindset of we're actually here to sell stuff, not necessarily just to sell stuff to get the money. The goal is not to get the money. The money is actually just the scorecard. And I think we can be fearful of money and selling and coming across as salespeople rather than just doing great hair. But unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but fortunately, money does make the world go round. Not because we're greedy money people, but it's actually just a transaction, and it just measures a transaction of value. You do this for me and I'll give you that. Once upon a time, it was like, you milk my cow and I'll give you some grass. You know, there's a transaction. But grass and cows are hard to carry around, so we created this thing called money that we could put in our pocket. And so it's like, you do this for me, cut your hair, and you give me some money, which I will then go and take to buy some food. And so I think we all get caught up in, I don't know where it came from. It'd be an interesting study. When did we start to think that, you know, filthy rich people were filthy because they're rich? Do you know? But this is the mindset. My son came home from school one day and told me that that rich people were dirty. And I thought, what? Where's this come from? He said, because they're filthy rich. I was like, oh, bless him. But he learned this not in the school classroom, but like just from the playground. And I thought, hang on a minute. Rich people aren't dirty or filthy or bad or greedy or all of those things. They've just worked out how to give more value to more people. So they've just managed to get more money back. And I think if we can flip the mindset, then we can feel good about all the amazing things that we can serve our clients with. We can give them the things that they really want and they need. And if we took away this kind of feeling bad about money, we would just measure the money as the transactional value. And then that value would just tell us that we've done a good job. The more money that we have, you know, if the goalpost was every time you get to $1,000, you know that you have kept 10 people happy. Actually, that's not good maths. 2 people happy, whatever it is. If we put money measured happiness, then we'd feel good about it. So you need to know the numbers so you can measure success.
I think that's one of the biggest learning curves as being a business owner with having staff is that we don't actually pay them. The clients pay them. You know what I mean? We're just the middlemen, you know, and it's, you know, if you want to earn more, we don't have this amazing big endless bank account that we pay you with. It actually comes from the services that we provide to the people, and they're happy about that, you know. So
Yeah.
it's a big learning curve for all involved.
I think too, the other thing is, you know, it's our duty as a business owner to have a profitable business, because if you're profitable, you're sustainable. It means that you can be, you've got a responsibility to clients that you're here next week and that you're open, the doors are open to serve them. For your team next week, that your doors are open next week so they can come and get their paycheck. You know, you're responsible to the landlord that you can pay his rent. So we're responsible to those people to be profitable, and also to our family to make sure that we bring money home and actually feed our children, put clothes on their back. So I think it's our responsibility to be profitable. And if we're not, we're letting a lot of people down, primarily ourselves. So it's just a different way of looking at the money maths, I think.
And I think 2020 has made that very evident for everybody. You know what I mean? Never before we had a time, like if you look at people in New York or wherever, London, Sydney, Melbourne, if you haven't got any money in the bank, it's been a real tough year. You know?
Yeah. And I actually think it's broken down a few walls actually for owners to talk about this with their team and actually be transparent and say, it's actually my responsibility to have a lump of cash in the bank. I'm not going to feel bad about it or guilty about it, or that I even have access to it. I need to have this lump of cash in the bank because just in case. Actually, and I have a responsibility to you that if anything goes wrong, like COVID, that actually I can still pay you and I can keep you. And a lot of people are doing that because not everybody qualifies for JobKeeper. I know a lot of salon owners who are paying out of their own cash to keep jobs for people. And we're very lucky to have the likes of JobKeeper. So I do think it's our responsibility to be responsible first and then take the dividends after.
Yeah, that's so great. I wanted to get your perspective, Larissa, on something that's happened also. It was there prior to COVID, but definitely something that has, had a real fast forward sort of shift in COVID, and that is the concept of home colouring, clients doing their hair at home. Obviously, there's been people doing their hair at home themselves that never would have done their hair previously. We've got these colour kits that are customised colour kits that are being sold online and really targeting salon clients with almost like a customised consultation and your customised formula that then gets packaged up and sent to your house in a little kit. So these things are not new this year, but I think they've definitely sort of fast-tracked. And I just wonder about the long-term impact they will have, where clients have been taught to do their own hair at home, and what that's going to look like for salons and salon owners, and perhaps just some ideas about what salon owners can do to make sure that, what we're doing in the salon is giving above and beyond, that beyond expectation as part of the colour service. Or is there something different that the colour service will look like? Do you have a crystal ball, kind of look into what it's going to look like?
No crystal balls here. I really feel for salon owners, like it's such a tricky conversation because I can see that owners are torn, on what's the right thing to do, what's the right move to do, because, there's a black market emerging where people are illegally doing hair at home because clients are demanding it. They're approaching team members and saying, will you do my hair? I'll pay you lots for it. I mean, who would have ever thought that hair colour would have gone into the black market, gone underground into the black market? It was in such demand. So I think it's crazy, and there's this challenge that owners have to make a decision that they're either going to be part of that or they're going to lose out, and having to manage team members that are making different decisions than, say, maybe owners are making. So while you're in lockdown, there's no easy answer. But I think in terms of future-proofing yourself or coming out of that and trying to gain the business back, I think there's two things. It's doubling down on the client care and the client service. And I actually don't think that's more cups of tea and 3 biscuits instead of 1. I don't think it's that. They can go and get that elsewhere. I actually think it's about time, attention, and it's actually giving the client what they want none of the other fluffy stuff matters. And the only way to do that is outstanding consultations that actually are about the client, not about the salon or the service or any other objective other than giving her exactly what, sometimes not even what she thinks she wants, what she doesn't even know that she needs. And so I think that's the point of difference that are going to hold on to the clients. And you can do that in many business models. You can do that in the short, sharp, fast, in and out, because that might be for some demographic of clients, that's what's important to them. And for some, it's the longer service, it's the time out, or I want to come and I work, or I want this big complicated thing. It doesn't matter which model you go for or which client demographic you go for. What matters is that you're really clear about who your demographic is, and that you're really honed into that and you serve her, and you don't try and serve too many different people all at once. And you build your marketing around that, you build your client service delivery around that. And I think that way you can serve that client and you'll grow a strong brand around that service delivery model. And I think that's I really think that's the only way to go about it, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I completely agree. And I think having worked in the colour side of the business for as many years as I have, and so much of what we do is help people with the, analysis and consultation to absolutely, to me, there is no better way to have a raving fan client than nailing the analysis and the consultation and absolutely getting it right. And that person then is not only ecstatic with what you've done for them, because it's from a suitability point of view, from a technical point of view, you're really on point with your work, but then they go and, tell everyone, and not only tell everyone, they get stopped and people say to them, oh my God, that colour looks amazing on you. And that, as we know, word of mouth is a huge thing. And I think that, analysis and consultation, really nailing that and getting it right is just such a huge part of having a successful colour business.
And I don't believe there's one right. There's no one right way to do it, because, someone who's 23 and in her first job versus a mum who's 45 and working full time and got 3.5 children, they want different things. And so you can't say that there's one way to do a consultation. Every client demographic want it differently, depending on what their needs are, and the way that you deliver the service, whether it's fast or it's long, or if it's short or it's long, or it's different for everybody. And so I think that's exciting, because it means you'll be different to the salon down the road. You just need to be super clear on who she is, how she wants her consultation, how she wants the outcome, how she wants her service to be, and do that. And then your brand is unique to you, unique to that client, and you build something that's really strong. But I think we make the mistake is when we think, what is the right way? And we try just to kind of take pieces of everybody's way, and we patch together this way that we think is the right way. But I think there isn't a right way. It's just the right way for that client.
Yeah, definitely.
And honing in on that,
I'm going to go a little bit off script here because you've got my mind thinking, but Judi and I had a conversation earlier on as well, and that is that if you're very fortunate to still continue having an income at the moment and very little places to spend it, obviously during lockdown, one of the big shifts in my life has been putting money away. I was very frugal, very frivolous with money. $60 here, $70 there. And then when that all stops, you think, oh, wow, I've got this money that's building up. I'm very conscious of where I'm going to spend it. Where I would go eat out at, a little hole in the wall place. I'll go out somewhere for a nice dinner, and because I know I'm going to get that service. And I think that's what we have to, within our business, is making sure that you don't mind paying for it if it's a great quality. And that's always been the case. But we kind of lost a bit of that, because you'd just be like, oh, Monday night, we're going here, we're going to go for a quick Indian. Oh, we're going to nip out, $20 for a glass of wine, or whatever it may be. That all stops, And all of a sudden you think, wow, I've got... No wonder my accountant used to say to me, you just spend so much money, mate. You know what I mean? Anyway, back on...
But on the upside, like when Melbourne opens again, there'll be a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of money in their pocket waiting 100%. To be transformed. They'll have grey stripes, and they'll have ratty ends, and they'll have cash in their pocket. So make the most of it.
which is again a good reason to book out that extra time, because you're going to need to. You've got bigger jobs on, right? And that's.
And the hard thing is, the pressure of 500 people want it all in 1 week, and then how do you choose? Do we go the fast and hard route, or do we do the long and slow route? It doesn't matter what you decide, as long as you decide one and do that.
Yeah, I did hear of salons in the UK going 24 hours when they first came back. That seemed like fun at all. Now, 2020 marks the anniversary or Instagram's 10th birthday. And it was quite scary to think that Instagram wasn't around 11 years ago, and how much it's influenced our industry. I know, as you well know, dealing with Kelly and I, social media is really, I struggle with it. That's why we have people that specialize in it that are a lot younger than I am. But I wanted to bring to the attention of our viewers that, what's the biggest or the common mistakes that's made with posting we're always saying, well, what's the right content? And you referenced to it earlier on about backs of people's heads. What's the biggest mistake salons make when they're posting content? And that's
I actually think the first biggest mistake is that they're not posting consistently. It's kind of like 5 things in a row, and then a week goes by with nothing, and then there's 3 things, and then there's 12 things, and it's all over the show. I actually think slow it down a little bit, be more consistent, because you want to be in people's faces on a regular basis, not just popping up here and there. So first thing is being consistent. I think the other thing that blocks us is this fear of showing up to the world. And so instead of showing up and putting our own faces there, because people like to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. They can't trust the back of a head. First, they don't know who it is. And second, it's not you. It's just the back of someone's head. Do you know who loves the backs of heads? Do you know who looks at them the most?
Yeah.
Other stylists. They love to look at the technique and all the look, it's beautiful. Actually, clients don't really give a damn about the back of the head. They don't see the back of their own head. They see the front, and they see happy, smiling faces. And so when you're scrolling, people will actually be attracted directly to eye contact. And that's what they'll stop and look at first, is someone that's looking directly into the camera. So you actually want your clients looking directly into the camera, so you catch the eye contact, and then they'll look around at the rest, and then they'll read the caption. So backs of the head to scroll on past, unless you're a stylist, you'll have a look at it. So we want to see people. And as much as we want to see happy, smiling clients, which is social proof, we also want to see inside the business. Who are those team members that are going to be stuck in there for 2 hours? What are their areas of expertise? Can I trust them? I think the style of the end result certainly gives the trust a tick, but they want to know that the stylist or the employee or whoever is an expert in that, whatever it is. And I do think having clear expertise, whether it's a brand expertise, like we specialize in something, or whether it's individuals inside the business that have something that they stand out for and are experts at, is a great way of not just being a scroll past type of business, but a scroll stopping business. Because, like if you've got if you want to have plastic surgery, I don't know why this is a good example, but you don't go to the local doctor who does all of the things, you go to a specialist. If you want to do your kitchen, you don't go to a bathroom guy, you go to the kitchen guy. And so you've got to have something that makes you stand out from everybody else. So first is something that's scroll stopping, and second, some reason that I'll come to you over somebody else, and a good area of expertise, and being clearly expressing that in your social media, I think is a good idea. The only other one, what I would say, is that we too often, I think, we still make it about ourselves. We talk about ourselves from our point of view, and actually our clients, excuse my French, don't give a shit about us. Actually, they want to know that we're nice, and that and that we've got the expertise to make them look nice. But that's actually, they actually care about themselves first, not because they're selfish or like that it's a bad thing. But actually, when you look terrible, or you've got grey roots, or your skin's bad, or whatever, you're thinking about, how can this person help me look the best that I can be? So they're actually thinking about themselves first. And so I think we need to flip the script to be less about, we are experts, we did this, we won an award, and we all over ourselves. I think we need to flip it and make it about you. What do you want? When you have this problem, then we can come in and fix it. So we need to connect with the client. Like I always say, when your client wakes up in the morning and she walks into the bathroom, like, what's the first thing we do? We go into the bathroom, go to the loo, look in the mirror. what does she say? Oh God, look, she's picking herself to pieces. That's the conversation that you want to get. That's the conversation you want to join on the social media. Like, what are the problems that she's really facing? What are the things that she's challenged with? She can't do a fringe. She can't get the flick like, you know, like the model or whatever it is that she's challenged with. If we meet the client there and then show our expertise that we're the one to fix that, then I think we're on a different level of conversation and we're not just the scroll stopping socials.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree with you with the back of the head thing as well. You know, and it's also like this. Even this week, instead of saying we've got an appointments available at 1 o'clock, it's like we've changed the messaging. It's like, do you need your blonde to be refreshed? We can do it at 1. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like, otherwise, it's just an appointment at 1, right? And it's like, oh, is it for a blow dry? Is it for a cut? And it's like, no, actually, I've got blonde doing, and they said they can do it, so that's good.
Yeah. Oh, and then, yeah, it's 1 o'clock. I can do 1. Or I can't do 1, but I'll message them and see if they've got something else. Yeah. Make it about them first, 100%. I
love that.
Solving problems.
Yeah. And then I guess don't also remember to actually ask. Like in that example you said, you know, and we can do it at 1 o'clock. Like make it super easy for them to do business with you. Too often I see message us or, hey, we've got an appointment at 1 o'clock. The end of the sentence. Like, well, how do I make this appointment? Where's the link? And if people have to scroll and find you and find how to find your phone number or typing in the phone number doesn't work, you can't click on it. So now they have to, if you think about it from the user's point of view, from your client's point of view, they go 837, okay, find the phone, 837, back to the post, 739, back to the thing, 7. They give up halfway through. They're not going to actually make the appointment. So we need to make it super easy, like one click action. Give them the booking link, give them your messenger link, make it super easy to do business with you. Yeah. I could talk about that all day.
I love it. Right.
So you mentioned about salons coming out of lockdown in Melbourne and, you know, choosing a particular path, whether it's, you know, sort of, you know, slow or fast. Is there any other advice that you'd give to Melbourne salons who are sort of looking at coming back into the salon, or is there anything they could do to prepare for that now?
Yeah, I actually in first lockdown created a whole hub of there's probably 20 little masterclasses in there on exactly how to do that, scripts to call your clients, posts that you can put on social media, how to manage your appointment book. Is completely free. It's still sitting on my website if you want to have access to that, and that there's a heap ton of content in there to just give you step by step, because I thought honestly, like it's the trickiest thing to need to navigate. Copy and paste and do it this way, but there's several ways to do it. So I think you either go with the full service and take the slower time, or do the partial service where you might just get rid of the T-zone and around the edges and see as many people as you can and book them second time around for the whole quick service if you don't want to, you know, let people down. The other thing to think about is your A clients first. Your A clients that always rebook, they always have colour, they're home care, you know, clients. Those are the most important clients, and you want to probably contact them first and get them in top priority. And then, you know, as mean as it sounds, but, you know, commercially it makes sense. Then your B clients and then your C clients.
Yeah. So, Larissa, what can you do today that you couldn't do a year ago?
What can I do today that I couldn't do a year ago? Okay, here's a good one. Regularly show up in an Instagram story. Do you know, when you talk about the fear of showing up and being present, you know, one of the reasons 4.5 years ago that I started the podcast was that I didn't have to show up on camera and I could just be behind the scene on a podcast. And it's been, you know, I understand this journey because it's been my own journey of, you know, having to be publicly visible and letting go of the fear of judgment and all of that type of stuff. And so I think in the last 12 months, being able to just comfortably and confidently show up publicly and let go of the fear of that. I think that's what I've done in the last year.
Good on you. That's great. That's a good one. And we all have that. I mean, here we are kind of.
Amen to that.
Yeah. You know, we've all got our insecurities about how we look, how we, listening to ourselves again. But we're all coming from a place of trying to be helpful, and I think that has to override everything.
Exactly.
No, amen to that. Now we've come to the final four, which is what we ask all of our guests that come on the show. So they kind of just, you can go into as little or as much detail as you want. It's just four basic questions. And the first one is, where's your favourite place on earth that you've ever been to?
Well, I got two. Fiji is number one. I love and adore Fiji. And I think I love it. One, it's a tropical island, but I've been to a lot of tropical islands and spent a lot of time at various different ones. Fiji is my favourite because the people are just born and bred to serve with love and kindness. They're so nice. Like, they'll pick up, when we used to take the kids there when they were young, they'd pick up the baby and they'd be off with the baby, and we'd kind of like, anyone seen our baby? But we could sit and have breakfast or a glass of wine or whatever and a little bit of peace. They're just so kind. And Venice is the other one, just because it's such a special, unique, different place. I would absolutely adore to go back there. Maybe not right now, but in the future. So those are my two faves.
Yeah, fantastic. And where would you most like to visit next on your bucket list?
African safari, for sure. I'd love to go on an African safari. Just hanging out with elephants and lions. And I want to go to one of those zoo hotels that, you're in your room and there's a big glass, and through that you can see all the zoo animals. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, one of our guests is on from South Africa, Chase Meek, and he's, I went to, I can't think of the place. It's in out of Johannesburg, and it's like a safari thing. You stay in the tents. Kind of scary.
Yeah.
Rural and all that stuff. What are you most grateful for in your life so far?
I think two things. First, making the decision to join this industry. When I was 16, I was either going to go to teachers college or join hairdressing. I'm so glad I joined hairdressing. I think it's such a diverse, interesting, colourful, dynamic industry. So I'm super grateful of making that choice. And then the other one was actually my mum teaching me that girls can do anything. And all you need to do is to just do it and work it out as you go. She was a single mum, and she could fix cars, fix broken windows. It never crossed, and I had it was me and my sister and my mum. And so it never crossed my mind that, that there was any gender difference. You just got on and did the things that you needed to do. And I'm so grateful for that lesson. Thanks, Mum.
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it, Jude? We love that.
Sure is. Love it.
We spoke about that last week. When they have to fend for themselves, it's called resilience. In fact, It was raised at the breakfast table in our house this morning. You'll learn to do this because you're never in life do you need to be rely on anyone to do it for you. I think that's and also on the teachers college thing, I'm going to be very honest with you. Kelly rings me the night before we have our meeting with you, and we're like, shit, have we done our homework? So yeah, it's definitely
maybe it was in my blood the whole time.
we done it. Is it tomorrow? Have we done it? But no, it is fabulous. Now I know that you have an amazing podcast and some incredible guests on your website, which is always fantastic, and which we love listening to. What podcast do you love listening to? Do you have any go-to? Like, I listened to someone the other day and they said, my time for podcasts is when I'm walking the dog. Who do you listen to? Okay,
so podcasts, changed my life really. When I found them and discovered them, became addicted to them. Probably the one I go back to the most is a guy called James Wedmore. He's kind of a digital marketing guy. He certainly has helped me get the Salon Owners Collective off the ground. But the reason I like him is he's part business strategy and he's part mindset. And I think the two go hand in hand. And if ever business is not going well, it's because your mindset is out of alignment and you need a bit of a swift kick up the bum. So I go to him often. But I think that the other important thing to say too is, like, I'm actually not listening to any podcasts right now because I too have joined a coach. And I've made the decision to just follow that for the period of time that I'm doing that. I'm just following that because it's several times in my life, and I see this happen to even the people that I work with, is that we can get so much advice from all sorts of different places and we start to piece them all together and it just becomes a mishmash. And we think we need to do a bit of that and then we go with that. And so it's all of this disjointed strategy. And so I'm off the podcasts right now and I'm following my coach, and I'm doing what my coach says, and I'm following the one strategy. And I think that's a godsend, because it's easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to get confused with all the different things. There's so much free content out there. And I'm a fan of it because it got me to where I am. But there are times when you just have to stop listening to anybody and just get shit done. So, so it's either binge on all of the content that's available, stop and get shit done. Binge on all of the content, stop, get shit done. Or if you're paying for advice, let everything else go, do what needs to be done until you get the results, and then you can always go back for more information elsewhere. Because otherwise there's too much sometimes.
There's the golden nugget right there. We're doing a very similar thing. We're having a news break, aren't we, Jude? No news. Bit of break.
Yeah.
The whole
100%.
It's time to clear the mind, wash the mind, and I couldn't have paid you to say that better. That was exactly where the page we're on. Larissa, it has been fabulous having you on the show. I know you're a very busy lady and you have to go. Jude, wasn't that fun?
That was amazing, Larissa, and we are so grateful that you decided to join the hairdressing industry to share such amazing wisdom with us today, and so grateful that you've been so generous with your information, your experience, your knowledge. It's been so incredible, and we could just keep talking for another hour or more. Thank you. Thank you. Now you've got to go do school pickup, as you know, the juggle, the mum.
The juggle, that's right.
But yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to like-minded people, and hope there's some gold nuggets for some of your listeners.
That was fabulous. Thank you so much.